Hello, my co-highs. Hope you're all doing well. I'm your host, Tyranno Senpai, and welcome to today's Prehistoric Kingdom speed build. In the last video, I mentioned that I put up a poll asking you guys which enclosure you wanted me to do next between Psittacosaurus, Protoceratops, and Psittacosaurus. And an overwhelming number of you guys really wanted me to build an enclosure for Psittacosaurus, so that's what we're building today. But we're not just building one enclosure for Psittacosaurus, we're actually building three because there are three different species of Psittacosaurus in the game. I did say in this series I was going to be including every species available in the game up until this point. So obviously it made sense to include all three Psittacosaurus. I kind of want to have like a theme around this park, like, you know, with the Velociraptor pen. I put it as the first dinosaur you would see because I wanted to show guests this wasn't going to be just another Jurassic Park, that this was the real deal. So I wanted to show the guests, you know, how biodiverse a single genera of creature could be by having three Psittacosaurus enclosures right up next to each other along the same path. Speaking of path, this was exceedingly difficult to try to place down. Now, when it comes to building fences around paths, when the paths are straight, they're totally easy. But when they curve, that's when it gets really hard, because you got to find that right angle to try to fit them on. And it is a royal pain in the butt. And I wish you could, like, toggle them to fit around a path like this. It would make my life, and I'm assuming a lot of builders' lives, so much easier. Because whenever I build an enclosure, I always start out by building a path around it. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. That way I have just a basic shape. And now here I am looking through all the Psittacosaurus, and I decided to go for the biggest one, Psittacosaurus siberiacus. The enclosure is actually big enough for it, but I decided, you know what, just so it's not too crowded, I want to make the pen slightly bigger. So I obviously make the pen a little bit bigger. I actually did a little bit of research before making this build, and I found out that there were between 9 and 11 different species of Psittacosaurus, which is actually a surprisingly low number. I thought there would be like hundreds of them because they were so well known. Like, we know so much more about Psittacosaurus than almost any other dinosaur, right down to their color, their anatomy. My grandfather even found a paper on what their cloacas look like, which is cursed but also very fascinating, like in the scientific community. So this is basically the pen I go for in the end. I put down some paths to, you know, make the next few enclosures not too terribly large. That top bit you see that's not fenced around, that's actually going to be used for a different build. I put a new poll in my community tab to discuss whether or not I would have Protoceratops or Psittacosaurus as the next dinosaur, because in the previous poll they kind of tied while I was recording this, and Protoceratops took the crown. So the next build will obviously be Protoceratops. And now here I am, you know, choosing the Psittacosaurus I want in the enclosure. You know, a couple males, a couple of females, and just, you know, putting them down and all that good jazz. And then go back and get some more, and then I've come across a surprise. I managed to pull an albino Psittacosaurus. And I'm just going to say this right now, this won't be the last mutation that we get in this build. In fact, there are actually a couple more that are coming, and I wasn't prepared for any of them. Now I'm just placing down some lights where I think they might be needed. And I'm also, you know, checking their different biomes, because I want each of the Psittacosaurus enclosures to be different. They can all have a coastal biome, but I want to change it up every time, so only one of them gets coastal. That same species can also have a desert biome, But because we already have the Velociraptor pen right there, I don't want to have two of the same kinds of pens together, at least for now. But this will work fine. I put down a little pond here for them to drink from, smooth out the terrain as best I can, and just admire their floatiness. I decided to make a little bridge. I was thinking about making a dock originally, but the pen is just too small to have something like that. So we'll save something like that for when I build like a Spinosaurus or Dinocyrus habitat, something like that. Something that will spend a lot of time in the water. I'm now going through a couple of styles, choosing whichever one I like. And then I put down some wooden planks, to cover up the edge. I then realign it so, it's perfectly in line with the bridge, and copy and paste it over. Now, this next part was tricky because I wanted to make sure the Psittacosaurus would not go over the edge. So I decided to make some wooden poles along the sides. And originally I was going to make it a rope that connected them all, but then I decided, it would probably look better with just a collection of these wooden poles going along the whole length. The problem was they were not perfectly lined up, so I could just copy and paste them in a straight line. So I had to constantly realign them and turn them around so I could actually make what I wanted. Once I was comfortable with how they were positioned, I copy and pasted them, even though they were still unaligned. So I went back and fixed it. They're still unaligned, as you'll very clearly see later. But I copy and paste and move them forward. And I kind of repeat this whole process over and over until I reach the end. I was also thinking about leaving the bridge just as it is, but I really want to take my time with making this enclosure and all these prefabs. So I decided that with these poles, I want them to be of varying sizes. So I shrink and grow a couple of these all along the side. Make it look a bit more unique, less uniform. After I've gotten all the poles to the lengths I'm happy with, I copy and paste them over to the other side to save a little bit of time and flip them around so it's not perfectly symmetrical. Now I'm taking the landscaping paintbrush, painting in some mud. I test the bridge to make sure they can walk on it, and they can. I go back and paint over the terrain. And then I look for a shelter. Nothing too complicated. And I put it right there in the corner. We're going to be fiddling around with trying to conceal this later. I put down some mangrove trees because this is meant to be a swamp. And then I put in some reeds, to flesh it out. Next, I put down some feeders. Now, for the Psittacosaurus, they can have two. They can have a plant feeder and they can have an insect feeder. So I obviously give them both. Now I'm going around and putting down some cypress trees, I think they're called. Cypress cycad, I don't remember. It's those trees with the snorkels looking things. And I make them of random heights. Just so they're not all the same. And to, give the biome less blank space. I then try my best to conceal the shelter. Because, a shelter is a place where you want to go from prying eyes and where you want to rest for a moment. So I try to find various wetland vegetation to cover it up, just to give them their privacy. I mean, you wouldn't want prying eyes in your bedroom, would you? I don't think so. I put down some more various types of foliage, mostly around the trees to cover their bases. I don't know why, I just like covering the bottoms of trees with low ground sort of plants. I feel like it's more natural. Also, especially considering that grass isn't really all that visible from the air in this game, so it works fine. I then put down an ice block feeder and a termite mound for enrichment. I'm hoping that we also get toys like balls and scratching posts and more kinds of enrichment feeders for the dinosaurs. I would love to see what kind of animations they would come up for those. Could you imagine a T-Rex with a beach ball? That'd be something. I take the terrain paintbrush and paint around some of the structures that I put down. And also around where the vegetation is, just to bring in more color. I also move the reeds from the bridge so they're not phasing through it. More of the terrain paintbrushing. And I do this for a little bit. I did try to place down some rocks, but I decided, reeds will work better with this type of enclosure. Because I don't really see, when I was in Florida, I didn't really see a lot of rocks in the swamps. And for the time being, I was pretty happy with that, but we'll come back to that enclosure a little bit later. Next, we are going to be building the second enclosure for the coastal Psittacosaurus. Again, getting a fence around a curved path is extremely hard to do, and it takes so much precision. And now I'm putting down information boards for guests to read over the dinosaurs. And now I'm picking some Psittacosaurus mongoliensis. And if you look there, the second Psittacosaurus we get from this bunch is a Lewistic? I don't know how it's pronounced. It's the weird mutation that's not quite an albino, where it's white, but it still has the patterns. So obviously, we keep that. And this isn't the last one that we get. It is for this species, though. I'm now putting down some coastal grass, and you can kind of see the difference. Like, this grass is a lot paler. Now I'm putting down a shelter in the corner, which I will put down some straw for them to lay on. And I give them a little pond for them to drink and swim from. I also try to smooth out the edges, but not to a whole lot of degree of success, which I go back and cover up with rocks and boulders and things like that. Next, I put down their feeders. And some enrichment items. You can already see one of them swimming. I then paint some of the terrain. And now I'm placing down some rocks along the water's edge. It gives it a little bit of life. And also covers those unsightly parts of the terrain that won't smooth out. I copy and paste that over to the other side, and then modify it a bit more, so no side is the exact same. Covering up those unsightly gaps in the rocks. And I shrink it all down so it's not so rough for them to walk on. And then go through and get rid of some of these tacos, because I feel like there might be a few too many in this enclosure for me to be, it's a bit too crowded. Now I'm going through and painting some foliage in. Again, using specifically smaller plants, because again, I don't really like these smaller dinosaurs to be stuck in biomes with huge trees. It aesthetically doesn't look good to me. I'm now manually placing down some ferns and other trees. And these guys require quite a bit of forest. So it takes a while for me to, get them properly situated. I'm just now placing down some ferns around the trees and on the ground. The more I look at this specific enclosure, the more prehistoric it begins to feel like. It reminds me of the Diplodocus episode from Walking with Dinosaurs, Time of Titans, I think it was called, if I remember correctly. Speaking of Time of Titans, Prehistoric Kingdom, earlier today, as of this audio recording, and probably when this episode comes out, have teased a 2024 sort of image on their account that shows the silhouette of what appears to be a spiked-back sauropod. And I can only assume that this could be a tease for the Diplodocus, because the post also mentions that they have a Jurassic-kicking something. I don't remember what the exact post was. So I'm assuming we're going to be getting some Jurassic dinosaurs coming. And one of those would be Diplodocus. But I'm also hoping we see the likes of Stegosaurus and Allosaurus finally make an appearance. We know that the Cave Lion and the Elasmotherium are coming in the next major update. But I'm curious when we're going to get the new Jurassic dinosaurs. Now I'm just copy and pasting whatever vegetation I can, making sure the biome is nice and full. And I'm completely satisfied. I now jump back into the wetlands habitat and put down some lily pads to add some color around the bridge. And I absolutely love how this turned out. It now really looks like something you would see in like a swamp. I would also like to build something like this because I want this park to also be sort of like a botanical garden of sorts. For guests to walk around and see all the different plant life. Now we're down to the final enclosure, the Psittacosaurus for the Temperate biome. This one doesn't have a particular species that's listed in the game. It just has Psittacosaurus SP, and I don't know what SP means. If any of you guys in the community knows what that is, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know. I follow the path as best I can. And there you go. This one I actually didn't have a lot of trouble with. And now I go through all the Psittacosaurus and pick which one I like. And I finally find the last mutation in this build. A melanistic Psittacosaurus, I think. It's mostly black for the most part. It could be melanistic or it could be the other one, not albino. God, it's so hard to pronounce. Let me know if this is melanistic or not. I'm pretty sure it is. But we got 3 mutations in the park already, and they're all from the same species, which is crazy. I pick all the Psittacosaurus I like. And then move them about so, I have space to work with. Put down the shelter in the corner. And give them their food. Place down some water for them to drink and swim. And I decorate the terrain with some paint. And now, I'm putting rocks around the edge of the enclosure. And now I'm putting rocks around the edge of the water. The same exact process as before, just with a different color for a different biome. Once I'm satisfied with the rocks, I then go back and paint the temperate grass in and put down some substrate. Next is the enrichment items. and some vegetation. And doing my absolute best that I try not to get massive plants. I do kind of go a little bit overboard with this, though. And I go back and delete some of the excess. But I do this for a fair bit. I put down some clovers and some low-lying plants. I mean, you can see that it's already becoming a bit crowded with the plants because I can barely click on the Psittacosaurus anymore. I then conceal the shelter with trees and bamboo. And now I'm just manually placing down trees until they're comfortable, because these guys actually like dense forest. I also try to make sure that these trees try not to bleed into the velociraptor pen, because then they're not going to be comfortable at all. Now I'm just deleting the excess that I don't think the tacos need. I cover up the spots that actually do need some vegetation. And then I paint in some leaf litter. I then go back to the rock ridge around the water, shrink it down a little bit. I then decide to place down a couple of shops, to hide some of the gaps there. I put down a Bronto Apparel because, it's a clothes shop and we already have a gift shop, so it makes sense. And that is pretty much the whole build of the game, of this speed build. So let's go ahead and take a look at our little tacos. And here it is, folks. The 3 Psittacosaurus enclosures. We have 3 different species all around. So why don't we go ahead and take a closer look at them. So all 3 of these pens all border around the velociraptor paddock. Just so people can get a good idea of how biodiverse these animals really were, because they were prolific in various parts of Asia. So you can pretty much see them from every angle of this enclosure, but for this we're just going to go straight across the bridge and meet the Psittacosaurus siberiacus. The Siberian species, I think it is. And I think these are the largest ones in the game. We could see a couple of them over here eating from the insect feeders. Yum, yum, yum. Couldn't make me eat those bugs unless it was for views. We have one, sort of kind of being all jittery in the water. I hope that gets fixed later down the line. But look at that model for the Psittacosaurus, for this specific species. It looks so cool, especially with like the little bony bumps on its body. And yes, this water is deep enough for them to swim, just barely though. Here are the mangrove trees. We can see one over here, coming down into the shelter. Will it sit? It sits. And I have seen them sleeping here before. Look at his little angry eyes. He looks so mad from the front. It's so funny. Look at him. Look at this guy. It's very swampy environment. Here's a little ice block that they can feed out of. It's got like apples, bananas, watermelons, whatever. Here's the little bridge that they can walk on. You know, termite feeder for them to eat more bugs. Let's just hope they don't shoot this wooden fence over here. And in case y'all didn't pay attention, or in case I didn't say it, this big space over here is going to be the Protoceratops habitat. Yeah, listen to the sounds of them chitter and chatter. It's so cute. We have a plant feeder here, which is just full of ferns, cabbages, just vegetables. Yeah, just absolutely adore this. Little lily pads. I am so proud of what I have built here. And I did go back into this build and put a second bit of plank wood here so that the bottom half was also covered up. And it looks nice. Oh, look, and there's the albino taking a swim. Look at him go. If only he wasn't phasing through the mangrove tree, that would have been a pretty cool way to exit the water. So yeah, look at this guy. He is a beautiful specimen. Aren't you? Yes, you are. You are adorable. But yeah, this is the wetland habitat for this specific Psittacosaurus. But that's not the only one. We also have this pen over here, which I might go back in and fill in with some more vegetation just to cover up their shelter. But this is the Mongolianensis species. You can see a couple of them coming into the shelter. One of them's lying down. Two of them are lying down now. Look at him. They're so cute. We got all these coastal plants. We got these conifer trees. We got ferns placed all over the forest floor. We've got one here eating out of the plant feeder. I should also probably put a sign somewhere in the park where it says "Don't feed the animals." Because I imagine that Psittacosaurus would probably be one of those dinosaurs that would bite your finger off if it thought it was a carrot. Or just to be, you know, evil. Oh, we got two here drinking, and we got two swimming, and one of them is the Lewistic variant. Look at how gorgeous he looks. He is so beautiful. Absolutely love the patterns on this one. Yes, you look beautiful. Strike a pose. Look at that. Carefree. And look at his eyes. They're very white. Or blue. Like, look at the... Like, if I can get a proper... There we go. Look at those eyes. They're so beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous dinosaur. Yes, I'm talking about you. Look at those quills on his tail, too. Those look great. I love how they've designed the quills on these dinosaurs. Looks great. We got one eating here at a termite mound. I also put down some logs here to make this feel more alive. And maybe they can use these logs to scratch themselves. Or look for insects, or whatever. And then we have one, I'm assuming, probably coming here to eat. To which I assumed correctly. Man, I love these guys specifically. Look at the patterns on this one. The reds and oranges and dark colors. Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah. And then we move on to the final Psittacosaurus variant. These are the forest variants. And right away, we find our melanistic one who looks absolutely beautiful. Look at those eyes. They're so white. Very pale. This was kind of like the only indicator I had, aside from the dark skin, that this was a mutation, because all the other Psittacosaurus in this enclosure don't have eyes like this. Like, look at this. This is beautiful. Love it. Yeah, look, here's a good example. This is a normal one of these guys. I think this is the most accurate Psittacosaurus that's actually in the game. Although all three of them could be pretty accurate. I don't know. But I've seen this design so many times. This has to be the accurate one. Oh, we got one sleeping here. And you can see that cloaca's highlighted very darkly. We got one sleeping in the... Hey, oh, that's adorable. Oh, they are so cute. Huh. I need to put down some extra straw for the other ones. Here's a little rock ledge for them to step on. Oh, this one's going for a swim. Very temperate looking thing. You know, ground's covered in clover and whatever this stuff is, just some ground plants. And a nice little feeder for them to munch on. And there you go. That is the Psittacosaurus enclosures. And our park is starting to come together. We got a new apparel shop over here. We have a Sweet Tooth here. And we have a T-Rex cafe here. So, I didn't mention this in the build, but I prefer to use prefabs for shops and stuff. Because I don't really like working on human amenities. I'm much more focused on building enclosures for the dinosaurs. So, obviously, I'll mostly be using prefabs for these. But yeah, that is our Psittacosaurus build. So now we're just going to go into the cinematic cameras and we're just going to end the video on that. So if you enjoyed it and you're looking forward to the Protoceratops build, leave a like, subscribe today, hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything new. All my links are in the link tree in the description down below. And until next time, this is Tyranno Senpai signing off. Alright then, take care now. Bye-bye then.
Wetland.